Minutes, 90 minutes. So y'all, welcome to the Bigger the Food podcast. I'm your host, Apollo Woods, where we talk to amazing entrepreneurs across the country and especially in Oklahoma. Today's guest is Anthony Archie. He is the founder, we're going to call him founder and president of the Oklahoma Toffee Company. So we're going to talk about toffee, but like we always do, let's talk about more than what you do and let's let people know who you are.
Yeah. Well, man, I appreciate this opportunity to be with you. When I got the call, I'm so grateful. I'm so honored just to see your growth, see what you're doing on this platform. And so, yeah, I'm hoping that we can inspire folks to not only try to step out and make a dollar, but make a difference as well. And so, super excited to be here. You want me just to jump in?
So let's start off. So tell people who you are.
Yeah. And
then later on out, we'll talk about what you do.
Sure.
So who is Anthony?
So Anthony Archie, many things, but born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. My father is an engineer. My mother's a public school teacher. My grandmother is on my dad's side. Her name is Thelma Archie. She's a superwoman in my life. There we go. And so raised. My mother was real heavy into the church and just raised us and my siblings. I'm the oldest of three kids.
Okay.
And I'm 35. My brother a little bit younger, and my sister is in her 20s. And so really found a good community in the church and grew up and desired to serve others in pastoral ministry. Right. And in high school, I was a band geek.
Okay. Let's go back. Before we get even into that, because I'm meeting a lot of people who are from Chicago.
Yeah, man.
Moving back to Oklahoma. So there's definitely seems to be this Chicago, Oklahoma City, Tulsa connection. Yeah. So how old were you when you moved to Tulsa? So
sure, about 20 years ago, about 18 years ago. So in 2006, after I graduated from high school, desired to come to Tulsa because ORU, Oral Roberts University, really great Christian university, was the place where I wanted to come and sort of continue my theological education, business education. It was a cultural shift, definitely. From
all right, but listen, you're living. So are you from Chicago? Or you're from a metropolitan area?
No,
Chicago?
In 97th and Vincennes. Okay.
So you're from Chicago.
All right. We ate Italian Fiesta pizza. We had Harold's chicken. When Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time, and Mayor Daley is still the mayor. No.
Okay, so there's always this debate about Chicago chicken, right?
Okay.
About the wings.
Yeah.
So
love wings.
It's Harold's. What are I forgot the other two. So it's Harold's, and what are the other two?
Yeah, I don't know any other chicken beside Harold. Now
you're Harold's faithful.
Harold's faithful. So we got Harold's. We have Giordano's. We have Italian Fiesta. We have Fox's on 99th and Western. Okay. But standing head and shoulders above all of our Chicago, for all the foodies out there, is Portillo's.
Okay. That's pizza.
Well, no, that's hot dogs. Hot dogs, hamburgers, and so love Portillo's.
So what is this? I'm kind of get off track a little bit.
Sure.
But the Chicago deep dish. Mm-hmm. I thought my first time going was Taste Chicago some years ago.
Yep.
Oh, and I was like, I had to go get the deep dish
for sure, man.
But when I got there, I was told by locals that's not Chicago pizza. Like that's not. It's a popular thing, but people really eat Chicago style. Chicago pizza is really a thin crust, and cut in squares.
That's right, cut in squares. So here's the deal. There are folks that love both styles of pizza. This is, so when you're in high school and you want to go on a date, and it's a serious date, you'll take a girl out or a guy out or whoever for deep dish pizza. Because it takes about 45 minutes to an hour to even cook the thing. And so
it's about 2 to 3 inches thick.
Right.
Like it's a real layered pie.
You're right. It's like a cheese pie with like toppings in it. So it's a novelty. You have it. Maybe I'll have deep dish once a year, maybe twice a year.
It's a one slice and I'm done.
Right. You would be done because it's just so much cheese. But your thin crust pizza it's where it's at. I'm talking about Home Run Inn. I'm talking about Uno's. like I said, Giordano's,
Yeah.
Fox's, Italian Fiesta.
But it's cut in squares.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So most people cut them in like the typical pie, like the triangle.
Yeah, we don't do
In
that.
Chicago, you cut your
That's right.
thin crust pizza in squares.
You just feel like you have more after when you cut it like that. And
I can see that.
You go to Connie's and that's how they do it. They just chop it in squares and that's how you do it.
Okay. So growing up in Chicago, so you moved to Oklahoma at the age of 18.
Mm-hmm.
So what did your family think
Yeah.
about you leaving Chicago and coming down? I guess we can call ourselves the Midwest. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I still don't know what they call it. I'm from Oklahoma. We still don't know what we call each other, like what region we're from.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were like, I'm going to attend university in Tulsa in Oklahoma, what did people think? What did your family think about it?
So my dad said, Oklahoma? Oklahoma? Or and then he began to sing. He said Oklahoma, and then he began to sing
Broadway play,
right? Oh, Oklahoma, and he extended. So anyway, it was. So I mean, growing up in Chicago at the time, third largest city in America, there are more people living in our city than in the whole state of Oklahoma.
Absolutely.
And so, what's in Oklahoma again? What exactly? Are you trying to? And so we grew up. I'll give you a little bit more backstory. I grew up watching, and this is for better or for worse, a lot of Christian TV, a lot of Christian television. And one of the most influential, ministers that was on television at that point, the guy's name was Kenneth Hagin.
Okay.
And I would hear stories about the City of Faith, which is, Oral Roberts, when he started the university, he actually also built a hospital that people could go to and receive care and whatnot. And so if you were in sort of the evangelical Christian space, you heard about ORU. And also, I'm just remembering this, one of my cousins, cousin Sharon, actually had attended ORU for a semester. So we actually had one person from our family that had attended the university as well. And so, I had to, but also, so I had to make my case, but also my parents have been really supportive of whatever I've wanted to do, whether it is, I was a musician from the time I was in second grade. My dad saw basically me beating on a bunch of pots with spoons and forks and said, we need to get this guy in some drum lessons. So like identifying what my gifts and talents were and encouraging me in those passions. And so, they drove me down. My dad, he drove me down with our entire family to that first semester of school, and been living in Oklahoma, in Tulsa ever since. Okay,
so just to paint a better picture of like home life and that environment, because the more I talk to people, they often refer, when they reflect and think back, that the home life experience really shaped what ended up happening in their lives in adulthood, 20, 30, or some odd years later, right? So being an entrepreneur, educator, family man, husband, we'll get to the other things that you're going to get into.
Sure.
You mentioned your grandmother, father being supportive in the family environment. Looking back now to then, how do you think that environment shaped who Anthony is today?
It had a tremendous shaping of just the way that I view the world. So I'll paint you a picture. We lived in a multi-generational home.
Okay.
Meaning that, so my grandmother came to Chicago in 1950 from Jackson, Mississippi. And
So your grandmother was a part of the migration
the
north.
Great Migration, that's right. We're connected to, and if you don't know about the Great Migration, Isabel Wilkerson has an amazing book called The Warmth of Other Suns, basically after slavery. There was a mass migration over about 50 years of black folks leaving the South to the North. And what's interesting is we're seeing right now a semi-migration back, which is real interesting. But she came to Chicago to make a new life for herself. She was married at the time. And so she began to work. She worked really hard. And every house that her and Grandpa John, my grandfather was a World War II veteran. He went and fought Hitler in World War II. Was every house that they owned, when they got a new house, they kept the old house. And so real estate, they began to have a good number of properties. So when I was born, we actually lived above my grandmother's. It was like a bungalow where she lived on the bottom floor, but my mother, father, myself, and our siblings, we lived above her.
Okay.
And so, every day I was with.
So it's kind of like what you see on TV, for the lack of words. Like it's, I guess, is that considered a townhome, like a brownstone?
It would be something similar to a brownstone.
Okay.
Yeah, you have a bottom floor.
But each floor
has its own bedrooms, bathrooms.
And everyone lived together.
Yeah, I mean,
they were living in the same.
Let me tell you something.
Residence.
There were plenty of nights when I had a bad dream, and I left my room and went downstairs into my grandmother's house and just slipped into her bed, and she was like, "Who is this? This is not John."
So, I'm interesting about when you talk about what your grandparents did, that they had a home, bought a home, didn't sell it, rented it out.
That's right.
Have you ever talked to them about why where that idea came from? Not to say that, and I don't want this to come across to people listening that black folks learned it, didn't know what they were doing. It's some like anomaly that we don't invest and buy homes. Because my grandfather bought the home that my grandparents bought that's in Duncan, family home, land, all that stuff. So it's something that we've always done as people. But I'm just always curious to hear other families talk about or share how that started for them.
Yeah. Well, so two things. My grandfather, I actually did not get to meet him. He passed away I was born in 87. He passed away in 85.
Okay.
And so I hear just wonderful stories about him. But the answer to that question is actually part of the reason why she moved to Chicago.
Okay.
And so my grandparents, Thelma and John, they were married and they began their life. This is probably back in the 40s. They got married. I don't know the exact date, but my grandfather would paint houses.
Okay.
And with his brother. And so you spend all day painting houses, and then my
I feel like there's going to be like an interesting kind of like loop to this.
Maybe. Well,
because you and people start there like, so and so did this, and in the back of my head, my uncle is talking because I'm like, all right, there's a hook coming. I know there's a hook coming.
Oh sure. Well, we'll see about this hook. And so my grandmother's at home raising. My dad is the youngest in his sibling group, so raising the two older daughters, my aunts. And so, I mean, at the end of the painting job, you're supposed to get paid.
Right.
So
here comes the hook is coming. It's coming.
Spend all day painting this guy's house. And so there was this one day when John and his brother, they were painting. And at the end of the day, they knocked on the door, and hey sir, we're done. It looks really good with this beautiful baby blue. And the guy said, I just ain't got it. I just ain't got it.
He pulled an okie doke on
You're gonna have to come back tomorrow. And so my granddad comes to the house, and Grandma Thelma, which is what we called her, said, "Oh, you've been painting all day. How much did you make?" And John said, well, he said, we got to come back tomorrow. And so a conversation what are you talking about? He said, come back tomorrow. Like, you covered in paint right now. You spent all day. And so there was that conflict there. And they went to another house and they painted. I think it was John, and I think his brother's name was Earl. But they painted, and it happened again. I don't know if it was just getting around that John, he.
So you're gonna go back. You're gonna go to Grandma Thelma and be like, "Hey, I didn't get paid again." So, but that was a long, slow walk home.
Yes, maybe just trying to figure out what the explanation would be. And Grandma Thelma told Grandpa John, "If you come back in this house one more time,
one more again,
that's what we say, without getting paid." There's going to be a problem. And actually, it happened again. He didn't get paid. And Grandma Thelma made good on that promise to say, hey, we need, and this is the answer to your question, I feel like she was motivated she wanted stability.
Yeah.
She wanted an economic security. She didn't want to be dependent upon the whims of some, guy who's maybe doesn't want to pay my granddad. Right. I want to invest. I want to have control over my financial future. And so she made a decision to leave what was familiar to her and go up I-55 to be with, and I think she had a cousin that was already living in Chicago. And she made that decision. And so I think that she had a motivation to be self-sufficient, to provide for her family, and to say, hey, nobody's ever going to tell me how I get to move financially. Right. And so, and we're still benefiting from that legacy.
Yes, I think also too when you step outside of just those immediate circumstances, I can kind of see a scenario where it's down south. Husband is taking a risk and going out and working. It's not safe, and then now a third time someone's not paying you. So maybe the chatter around town is hey, he'll do good work, but don't pay him. Maybe. And then you get to the place where it becomes it's not safe. Yeah. Because you're working, you're not getting paid. So a man that needs to provide in some type of confrontation can lead to him potentially losing his life.
Oh my gosh.
So if you take it from the place of like, hey, yes, can't keep taking jobs, not bringing money home, but at the same time, if this continues, there's a possibility that you might lose your life in confrontation, and that changes our life. So I look at it from the other side to this. Yes, stability is what we need. Don't come back making no decisions again. But also, we need to get out of this place, this environment, and move somewhere where we can. And many black folks that live in down south moved up north because it was a place for some economic freedom.
That's right.
And establishing roots there. So it's always great to hear that story because that likely inspired this entrepreneurial spirit. So when you decided, I want to hear Grandma Thelma's response. When you decided, I'm going to Tulsa, I want to know what Grandma Thelma said.
Well, Grandma Thelma, she said, baby, she was so, my Grandma Thelma was so welcoming. She was so, you could tell her that the house was on fire and it wouldn't rattle her. You could tell her that you were going to go and dye your hair blue. Yeah. And she would say, oh, blue is my favorite color. Have you thought about what shade of blue it's going to be? Like and even if she disagreed, she would try to couch it in a way that still preserved your dignity. But she knew that I was wanting to be a minister. She knew, and she'd come to hear me. We attended a small black Pentecostal church, actually in Northwest Indiana, in Hammond, just across the border, where the gas is cheaper. Anyway, and the fireworks are legal. But so she was very supportive. Okay. She hadn't heard of of Oral Roberts, but she said, baby, if this is where you think that God is going to call, you're going to be developed and get to serve people, I'm for it. And then what I did is I said, okay, so can you sign for these student loans then? And I kind of just slid her the paper and
I need a guarantor.
Right. I need a co-sign because it's not cheap, and we're still paying off those loans. But actually, my grandmother, she passed in 2018, okay. And so it's on me now. But or on Biden. No, I'm just joking. That won't happen.
I need that too.
But she stepped in and was pivotal in helping me to finance that education. And so not only supportive in her words, but also in her credit.
Okay. So then you moved to Tulsa, eventually graduate from Oral Roberts University with a degree in...
So my undergrad was in pastoral Christian ministries. Okay. So basically a theology degree. Studying the Bible, what does it mean to cultivate a healthy faith community, and then there's a additional degree, an advanced degree called an MDiv or Master of Divinity degree. It's sort of like a CPA for an accountant or a JD for a lawyer, and it's really respected within different church circles. Okay. And so I graduated from seminary and I began pastoring at a law. What's interesting, I began pastoring at a church that was very different than the sort of church that I grew up in.
So grew up in a Pentecostal church.
Yeah, a small black Pentecostal church. On like I said, basically the South Side of Chicago, Northwest Indiana. But I was brought on staff at a large white Presbyterian church.
Okay, how does that go?
Well, the first time that I got up and I said, "Turn to your neighbor and tell them, God is good," they were like, "What? We don't come to church to talk to our neighbor."
What's this call and response and telling me what to do kind of thing?
Exactly right. And so, no, I love the folks at Kirk of the Hills Presbyterian, but it was definitely different. And I mean, coming to Oklahoma from Chicago, I was raised on the South Side of Chicago, predominantly African American population. I probably count on both hands how many Caucasian brothers and sisters, and we love people of all colors, of course, but the vast majority, virtually all, were black folks that look like me, and so,
especially coming out of on the South Side of Chicago, where there's diversity in occupation, there's diversity in experience, diversity in culture. Yeah. Think about when I learned about visiting Chicago is it's a very segregated city.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, it's not I didn't look at it as a bad thing because I was born and raised in Oklahoma. So there's one a lot of black people spread out or in small pockets everywhere. So when I went to Chicago, I enjoyed the fact that I'm in a place where this is all black people and businesses and food and taste and interest. Yep. I no longer felt like I had to worry about my words, my disposition, the whole big black guy ball. I never had to worry about any of that stuff because everybody, I was like, this feels like home.
Sure, yeah.
So then when you go from that to here, just like when I moved from here and moved to Houston, I didn't know that I never met somebody that was black that spoke French.
Wow.
I never met a black person that was Catholic. So it was like that for me. And here you go from that environment and move into a place where ain't a whole lot of us.
That's right.
Or are you?
Yeah, it's so to speak on Chicago for sure. There was a lot of redlining that happened in the 1940s that sort of defined the neighborhoods that we were in, and then as some black folks moved into white neighborhoods, white folks moved into other neighborhoods. So there's so you do when you go to the Beverly neighborhood or the South Shore versus Chinatown downtown. Now, totally love that. Now, what we need to do as a city, I no longer live in Chicago, but there needs to be investments in each of these communities,
absolutely,
so that people can thrive wherever you live. But the politics of Oklahoma is different than Chicago. A lot of views on. So it was so funny because when I came in 2006 to go to ORU, and so I was in Tulsa at school during the Obama McCain election. Okay. And
but you missed the era where Carlton Pearson was in Tulsa. Yeah, you missed that.
I missed. I definitely did. And
I was there. I was at TU for 97, 99. And so I was there.
Oh, you was at Azusa?
Yeah. So I went and I was like
blown away.
Yeah, blown away.
I'll tell you, our pastor up in Chicago would tell us stories about Carlton Pearson, about Higher Dimensions, about Azusa, and just the work. And this is where I definitely do appreciate Oral Roberts, the person, in recognizing that if we're going to keep our faith relevant, we need to have an inclusive space.
Right.
And but yeah, lots of stories about Pastor Pearson, and I met him a number of times. I'll send you some pictures. You can put them up if you want. But he would invite me to his house and just speak to me in just ways of just affirming my calling as a leader. Right. And how do we take this treasure that we claim that we have and let others see the light?
Right. I think his when you look at a person that literally he stepped out away from the normal at that time, and how difficult it was at that time for that people turn away from you when you're doing what you believe you were called to do, and then decades later, things turn back to like, did we, maybe this is the sense I get. Did we get it wrong on how we perceived a person? Were we not as receptive to someone who decided to go down a path that was different?
So this is what I think. I think he showed more integrity being honest about where he was in his faith journey than a number of pastors that I know who will stand up and say the talking points that will get you paid or keep people in seats, who actually are going through doubts in their own mind.
Right.
And so, within the American church, there are a lot of perverse incentives for ministers because to be quote unquote successful, you need nickels and noses. You need people in the seats and money flowing in.
Right.
And so, how do I do that? Well, there's a pressure to say what people want to hear, whether that is a fundamentalist sort of strict interpretation of the scripture or a very liberal interpretation of the scripture. And so you build this culture, and then everybody, if you're being honest, is trying to work through what they believe. Maybe
right.
And so, but as a pastor, do I have the space to explore that publicly? And sometimes it's not a safe space to say, hey, I'm doubting this whole situation, or I'm thinking that the way that we do community with our neighbors is not as inclusive as I think we should.
Right.
And to step out and be honest about that is very risky.
It's very difficult. I think it's difficult for any person to finally step and say, I want to figure this out for myself.
That's right.
I want to come to understanding for myself. I mean, there have been so many times where I've read something that a book or the Bible, devotion, or a conversation where I in my head, because I've heard it before, I actually didn't read it.
Right.
Because I've heard it before.
Oops, sorry.
And I'm like, I already know what it's going to say.
Yeah.
But then when I actually read it, I was like, wait a minute. So yeah, let's go Bible here for a second, right?
Okay.
Now I have no theology.
All right.
But my name was Apollo. Yeah,
come on now. Apollo.
Look me up in the New Testament.
That's right.
So when Jesus asked the man, did he want to be healed when he was by the pool chilling for 38 and 8 years,
yes.
for 30 and 8 years.
30 and 8 years. That's King James right there.
He thought that for him to be healed, he needed to get in the pool. He needed to roll over, get in the pool.
Right.
And when he said, do you want to be? And he said, get up, go.
Wow.
He never got in the pool.
Wow.
He thought in his head, my healing was in that water. And Jesus told him, if you want to do it, you will. You've been over here for 38 years, and you are blaming and complaining for somebody else not helping you, but you right here. So what you thought you needed in that pool, you had to make up your mind and make a decision. I want to be, and he never got in the pool.
Wow, that's powerful. You need
because I actually read it. I was like, I read it, like because when you don't read it, you think, oh, he got in the pool. Like, no, he never got in the pool.
No.
He told him to get up and go. And he got up and he went.
That's right.
And never got in the pool.
That's right. I think that's a really powerful observation. You need to. I don't know. Are you preaching anywhere on Sunday?
Now. Wait a minute.
You need to come on to Tulsa. We got a couple churches that could use this exegesis.
The Lord ain't called me to do that.
But it's just also in that passage, he asked the question, like, do you want to be healed? In that maybe when you are sick for so long, there's a sort of identity that you receive in the sympathy of others, in sort of, man, what can I imagine? And this goes back to Carlton Pearson, I think. Can I imagine what life looks like beyond what I've been tied to for all these years? And so there's fear that has to be overcome, and so. It
was interesting is even with that, and I was listening to Pastor Youngblood. He was talking, and he made a good point. He was talking about his time serving on a nonprofit board that helps homeless people or those who are displaced.
Okay, yeah.
And in his mind, it was, hey, let's go get everybody these resources. They need it. Let's go get everybody these resources. And what he realized is not everybody wants to change.
Right.
Some people have accepted that I want this condition instead. There's the freedom of me having this and no responsibility. Some people may not be capable, but you have to ask people, do you want it? Because we assume that, because we have this grand idea, and everyone has a solution to fix something, but you're imposing on people. Back to your comment about every different communities, whether they're mobilized together or ethnic groups together at all, someone coming in imposing something and not asking or understanding, is what I'm offering you, do you want?
Right.
And then asking somebody if that's what they want, it might require you, matter of fact, it does require you to build relationships.
That's right.
Because you can't say, oh, we need a grocery store. Well, yes, but what if the grocery store is not immediately what we need?
That's right.
But I may not understand that's what I need because people have been feeding to me that's what I need. So you get a grocery store. I still can't afford it.
Or have transportation to get there.
Right? So then when you start digging it down and people understand, when you wanted to build community, these are things that we need because these are things as Black people have been taken away from us. So now we're having to understand, your grandfather had a trade. You know, your grandmother learned how to manage houses and do real estate. Learn those things, but we've lost that in translation. So I think it's very important as we're wanting to grow and develop stronger communities. We have to first take the time to understand, is this what you want?
Right. What do you want?
And help people understand what they need and guide them in that direction.
But that's done through relationship.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it reminded me of a quote. It said, I hope I get it right. Anything done without me is done to me. I don't know if I got that one right, but basically, like, if you come in and try to impose a solution on folks that they have not helped you co-create, they become the victims of, whether for the positive or negative. So I'll tell you just briefly, in addition to leading an award-winning candy company, which we'll talk about, I'm also a candidate for Tulsa City Council. So in Tulsa, we have a mayor, but we're also broken up geographically into 9 districts. About 45,000 people are in each district. And one person is elected to represent sort of the legislative branch of...
Hold on, wait. Because I think we got to tie in. I think that ties in. But I want to get to the toffee first, though.
You want to get to the toffee?
I want to get to the toffee first.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Because I think in my head, in order, you've experienced these things that led you to, like where this next journey you're going into.
Love it.
So where did Oklahoma Toffee come from? Where did you decide that I want to have a toffee company and I want to sell toffee, and toffee and coffee go together? I don't know if that, I don't know if that was part of the thought process.
They rhyme for sure.
But how did Oklahoma Toffee come about?
Sure. So my wife and I'm married. I got 3 kids. Right now, 8-year-old daughter, 5-year-old son, and 4-year-old daughter. My wife and I this year will be married 12 years.
Okay, congratulations.
And she's actually from Tulsa, born and raised there, and so love her very much. But after graduating from school, we got married. She went to Northeastern State University, and she started teaching in Tulsa public schools.
Okay.
And I was a youth minister at the church that I was a part of, and Oklahoma, the state of Oklahoma, was in a nearly $2 billion deficit. Is that right? About I think it was 1.3 billion.
What year was that?
This is back in, like, Mary Fallon was governor. This is like 2015, 2016. And so our state was broke. And so there were a lot of agencies that were being cut. And the Department of Education in our state was one of them, where class sizes were too big. Of course, pay was abysmal,
right? And
there was just this palpable sense in the air, just like you could feel it, that educators were not being valued. And so my wife, every day she would come home and she would share about a lot of the wins that she would experience with her students, but a lot of the frustration on the funding side. And it all kind of came to a head when in 2016, we have every year Oklahoma has a Teacher of the Year. And in 2016,
That was the year I moved to Oklahoma City.
Oh, really? Okay. So you were probably in the city when this happened.
Yep.
The gentleman, he stood up and talked about how great the students were, how he appreciated his colleagues, and then announced that he was leaving the state to go to Dallas.
Yep.
Because he loves his family and he loves his wife, and so as a man, he needs to provide for them.
Right.
And being a teacher in Oklahoma was not making enough money to support his family without working, at Quick Trip all night long, after working all day at school. And Quick Trip is the amazing gas station here in
Actually, they've opened the first Quick Trip in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
Last Thursday, I believe.
Well, y'all are about
more to come.
About to be upgraded.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. There's nothing like a Quick Trip, but that was just an example of the challenge that educators were experiencing. So that was happening. That's in the air. Additionally, Grandma Thelma, Grandpa John, there's this entrepreneurial spirit that I have had since I was a little boy that I wanted to manifest in some way. What's crazy is that even when I was in middle school, I would tell my mom, and my mom would take me to the GFS. It's kind of like Sam's.
Okay.
And we would get these big containers of like blow pops. And so I would go to school and like sell the blow pops for a quarter, and so it's very entrepreneurial even from a kid. And so we wanted to start a business, and I thought, well, if we were going to start a business, it needs to be one where folks are not only do we make a dollar, but we're actually making a difference in some tangible way in the state. And so I approached my wife, I approached my grandmother, and I said, me and Chelsea began to talk about it. We said, well, what do people like? What is a product that could like appeal to a lot of folks? And she said, well, what's your favorite candy? And my favorite candy is toffee.
Okay.
Which is not like the most, like, most people don't walk around saying that they love toffee. But when I was a little kid, my mom would take us to Walgreens, myself and my two younger siblings. And if we were good in the store, she would let us get whatever candy we wanted. And Hershey's had a candy bar called the Symphony Bar.
I remember that, yeah.
And so it's still very good. It's like the best. And my grandmother, so anyway, I said, well, this is, I love toffee. I said, my grandmother has a toffee recipe that she's told me about.
Okay.
She's cooked it in her life and very tasty. And so I wonder if, because I said, I don't know how to make it. Maybe I talk to grandma and she can.
You got to go get the blessing from grandma.
Pass it on to me. And so that's what we thought about. We thought about how do we start a business where we can create a product, and then we said, well, we're going to use the profits in some way to benefit educators in the state.
Okay.
And so today, currently, what we do is we fulfill the Amazon wish lists of teachers across Oklahoma. They just email us their requests, or they go through our website. Now, when we started back in 2017, they would email us their Lakeshore wish list or their Walmart wish list. And so we've gotten, just as the business has gone along, we've gotten more efficient.
Okay.
But, we considered, do we want to do?
Oh, you never really answered what grandma said. You taking grandma's recipe.
Right. Oh, sure.
What did she say? Was she like, baby, I don't know? Or was she like, because it sounds like from the things you mentioned about her earlier, that she's very supportive and she's on board.
Extremely.
I'm curious to know, because it's something about having the blessing from your matriarch and your patriarch. It's something about that when they say yes.
Well, and it was very powerful in that, I don't want to get too emotional, but every time that I've sat across from my grandmother and told her something that I wanted to do, whether it was go to ORU, in a city that I'd never been to, in a cultural experience that was different. She said, "How can I help you? Wow. let me stick my foot in and help get it done." When I brought my wife is Cherokee. She's Native American, and up until I moved to Oklahoma, I don't think I'd ever met like a CDIB card carrying member of the Cherokee Nation. And so outside of not that black people are not Native, but she was not black, and nervous about what is it. And I sat with her, and we announced that we were gonna get married, and it was at her kitchen table, at her living room table. And oh baby, I've got a granddaughter-in-law. So supportive. And so when we came in, because she's still living in Chicago at this point. This is 2017, about a year and a half before she passes. And I think we go up for Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And we lay out this picture of Oklahoma education. And she was just flabbergasted that Chelsea, is this true? Or they don't give you all the school supplies you all need. And so Grandma, we have this idea of having a toffee company where I make the product. We have a small commercial kitchen. We bag it up, and we support teachers. The only trouble is I don't really know how to make toffee that well. And so can you and I know that you have a recipe that you've used before, and would you be willing to kind of show me the ropes? And of course, she's like, baby, of course, just she said, okay, so we need to get some butter, we need to get some sugar, and she just began to list out all the things when we went to that we needed to get when we went to Sam's Club to make this happen.
Okay.
And so to have that just consistent support over the years, just whatever sort of steps that I wanted to take to grow the business, until she passed away in 2018, she was our biggest cheerleader.
So she was your cheerleader. She had this wisdom, and you've observed entrepreneurship spirit in your family. So now that you have this blessing, you have the toffee, and you have this idea of you're going to contribute a percentage of your sales back into teachers, which helps them with
their school supply needs.
School supply needs.
Yeah, and when we talk about school supply needs, we're not just talking about papers and pencil. We're talking about, we got a request from a teacher in a middle school, Spanish teacher in Putnam City for Spanish dictionaries. And so, or it was a teacher, was it in El Reno, who she had kids with autism, and you have those weighted blankets that you can give that kind of, help them in troubling times. And we were able to get those. So a lot of passion projects. So it's not just crayons and construction paper, but there are so many creative teachers in our state who have ideas about how to make their classrooms better.
Right.
And the answer that they get from the administrator or from other teachers is, we don't have the money. Right. We don't have it. And
but when you were making this business, when you were like, you want to do it because it's going for it to make an impact.
Yeah.
And you seen in firsthand in your home with your wife, these stories like, well, let me create a solution to this problem.
Right.
So as you built out the business, what is something that you were surprised to learn about you were also an educator.
So yeah, after I so I was a youth pastor first, and then in 2018, I actually stepped into the classroom as well. I felt a calling, and I'll tell you a brief story. I was a youth pastor, and we had a good number of youth that would come every week, and my wife had 6 classes. She was teaching middle school science at the time, okay. And so she had 6 periods, about 150 students that she would see every day, that she was building deep relationships with and connecting with families. And I thought, my wife actually connects with more students and families and in positively impacting them in a day. Than I have this year, probably this year, well, maybe in the last 6 months. And so just like the impact that she was having was really inspiring. And then the depression, the oppression, the trouble that our state was in when it came to education, I thought, how can I be more impactful with my own time? And so I did step into the classroom. My first year teaching, I taught 4th grade science and social studies on the west side of Tulsa, Robertson Elementary. Let's go Road Runners. And so I taught there, and also I taught on the north side of Tulsa at Monroe Demonstration Academy. I taught science there, and then in the middle of Tulsa at a school called Edison Prep.
Okay.
Pardon me. And so I got a firsthand experience about, hey, I can send home a list of school supplies that I think are going to be necessary and great for our class. But if the parents don't give the supplies that I request, it's on me to.
So then you started to feel it started to make sense firsthand. Like you're hearing it,
right?
But then when you stepped into it, this become a firsthand experience of why,
right?
And so in that it became real. So to create a solution is, well, let me create a company that we can then fill a need. What are some of you mentioned the blankets for autism from these different schools, different teachers around the state. Do you remember the first request that you got outside of maybe just like people that you know, like where like I think what we're doing is that's not the question. Do you remember the first request that you got from a teacher that needed supplies from your business? Sure.
And my wife. I wish my wife was here. She could tell you 100 stories. Let me think for a moment, because there's been,
or maybe the one that stands out to you the most in the early stages.
In the early stages. It was so this is Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. I believe it was Elena Choa Elementary School.
Okay.
We had a teacher reach out to us. Never met her. Never had supported any teachers in Broken Arrow, and she said, I'm teaching STEM. I want to teach STEM, which my wife was a science major. We love science. I taught science. She says, I really want to teach my kids how to code. And but I don't have any robots to help them. Okay. Because you code and then you can like make the robots do whatever they do. And so she made a request for some coding supplies and robots. And we were able to, I think her picture's still up on our website, but I forget her name. But yeah, Broken Arrow, we were able to provide those robots so that kids can learn in STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, which is so important. My dad was an engineer; he still is, and I really think that we talk about legacy, we talk about economics. I wish that I could be a rapper, or I wish that I could be a basketball player. 5'7", I'm a short king, as we say. Are we still saying that?
But there's a lot. I think there's,
but it's the science, the technology, the engineering. That's what we were pleased to empower that class in that way.
Mm-hmm. I think it's so. What I'm thinking of when I'm listening to you talk about how you took a passion, you took a problem and your passions, and you made it purposeful, and it makes an impact. As you're growing the business, you're obviously evolving into where it is now. You're learning new things. What did you learn about yourself as you are building the business that maybe you weren't necessarily aware about your maybe areas of improvement or your strengths as you're growing this Oklahoma Toffee company?
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that I learned about myself as an entrepreneur that I'm still trying to learn. That number one, this is like a list, so I'll give you a list. Number one, the most important thing is consistency. It's showing up every day and saying, this is what I'm trying to build. Let me put my effort into every single day, trying to take one step forward. And so, posting on social media, or so our in our business, there's a couple of revenue buckets that we have. We do a lot of trade shows. We go, direct to consumer. A Fair of the Heart, which is here in Oklahoma City, Tulsa State Fair.
That was last week, right? A Fair of the Heart.
It was.
Or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so we do that. We do retail as well. So like calling distributors or calling purchasers at some of these stores, just consistently planting those seeds. You don't grow a business overnight, but every day you just make an investment into, these are the fundamental things that I need to do. I need to make sure I'm communicating who we are, what we're all about,
right,
to new people. And I need to share the story. People, there are people who have said to me at our events where we sell our toffee, or online when they purchase it, they would say, man, I need toffee. I need candy like I need a hole in my head. Meaning, and what they mean by that is they don't need candy, like they're trying to like be healthy or whatever. But I'm moved by the mission, because my dad is a teacher, or I was a teacher and I'm now a real estate agent, or my grandfather was a superintendent and I saw what was happening. Right. What's interesting is the first event that we did outside of Oklahoma. I was very nervous about sharing the vision. When people come up to our booth, or people talk to us about our business, say in Texas, our first event in Texas, I thought, are people in Texas going to care about the teachers in Oklahoma?
Especially with the Oklahoma-Texas rivalry.
Oh my gosh. Let me tell you something. It is the Red River. There is a shootout every year. And, sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. But, and so we do joke about that for sure. But we get so much support from Texas and Nebraska, and there was an order we had yesterday from Florida. Just there is a unity in our nation around supporting public education. I joke with people. I say I am pro school choice. I'm pro school choice, and 74% of Oklahomans have chosen to put their kids in a public school. And so we need to support our public schools here in Oklahoma.
I think it's interesting when you talk about the brand message of things, is people, in building a message, people respond to it if they feel connected to it.
That's right.
So messaging is important. Consistency is key. Without inconsistency is a direct way to failure, and sometimes in not recovering from that. But being consistent in all things, and being consistent doesn't mean that you're going to do it repetitively all the time,
or even great
all the time.
Right.
Just show up being consistent every time.
That's right.
But I love the fact that you found a way and a purposeful reason of why you start Oklahoma Toffee Company. But no matter what market you're in, it resonates to, if they live in a different state, but I'm passionate about supporting teachers, yes, I will.
That's right.
Right.
That's exactly right. I think if anybody's going to start a business, they need to. There's like a Venn diagram of like 3 circles, overlapping circles, where if you're going to start a business, you need to find something that you are passionate about. Like, what could you talk about all day long, or what excites you, or what intrigues you? But then also you need to find something that you're good at. Like, I love basketball. I could talk to you about Jordan and Kobe and LeBron and all this, but I'm not good at basketball. Right? So even though I'm passionate about playing, I'm no good at it. Okay, so you got to find something you're passionate about, something that you're good at. And if you don't know what you're good at, maybe talk to someone who knows you real well, and they can, reflect on you. But also, you need to find something that other people care about as well, a need that, in business you call it a market, or you talk about marketing. Right. But you need to find something that is helping others. I think the purpose of entrepreneurship is to benefit our community as a whole, as a society as a whole. You should be providing jobs, providing hope, creating spaces where people feel welcome and wanted. Because what if it comes from your heart, it will connect with their heart.
I agree. So I always believe that entrepreneurs, what we do, not everyone's an entrepreneur. We create solutions to problems. And so I agree with your idea of, finding something you're good at, find something that gives back. There's something else you said too.
Finding something there's a passion and then there's a competency.
Passion, you're good at, something that helps people.
Right.
But I would add to the fourth part of that is it's profitable.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, and
because people often they'll take these hobbies and they want to start a business because they love to sew, or you think your food might taste good, but if you don't know how to make it profitable,
right.
It's not a business.
Right. And I mean,
right?
and that is,
and doesn't mean that we can't take it. So in research I've learned is that most, specifically in the African American community, let's say the communities of color,
sure,
is that often we create businesses as in response to something we don't have. So, for example, mini food pantries.
Yeah.
Or the food pantries, or there's a corner store, or there's something in response to a lack of in the community, but because I'm so passionate and I love my community, it's hard for me to get people to make my business profitable because I'm giving it away or I'm accepting donations.
Oh, sure.
Whereas how I look at now having a foundation, a nonprofit, it's my nonprofit is not going to be effective if it can't generate income. So I can be charitable, but I also have to have something that generates money and revenue to do more. I do more with revenue. And so that's what I love about hearing your story. It's you've taken your life experiences and you looked at what is a big challenge in our state and how can I create a business that not only supports my family, it pays honor to your grandmother, but you're solving a problem. And I even think the Lady No Reno or Broken Arrow or whatever school or outside,
for sure,
the impact that will do to kids or a family that you'll never meet. So when you think about that, about your business, that you're making an impact on people that you will probably never meet, ever meet, and how do you how would your wife? How do you think your wife would feel about knowing that she's part of a company that her husband is leading, that we're making an impact on kids' lives that you will never meet?
Wow. I think that is, I've never even thought about it that way. My wife would probably be in tears of joy, but just and proud. Just the being proud of being a part of a mission that is not self-centered but others-centered, and so I think she would probably try to hug me and kiss me and say how nice, how wonderful it is, and I would accept those hugs and kisses. But
I got another one for you though.
Yeah.
What would Grandma Thelma say?
Wow. Now you're trying to turn this into a get me emotional, but I think that she would be so proud that this legacy of entrepreneurship, of vision, of seeing the good in others and calling it out, that it's continuing on. And I think she would smile and say, "Oh, baby, I'm so proud of you." And I just, she passed in 2018, and I still carry her with me. And in fact, our youngest daughter, we named our youngest daughter after my grandmother. My youngest daughter's name is Evelyn Archie, but it's Evelyn Delore, which is my grandmother's middle name. And just we want to keep her spirit alive. and just show that honor. And so I can't wait to see her again. And I do believe that there's some sort of consciousness after you go, and that there's some sort of knowledge of how her inspiration is affecting folks that she's never met.
Right. All right. I got one more in that lane. We'll switch. How do you? No, same way. If you were to look at yourself, if like you were you talking to you and said, "This is why I'm proud of me," and I asked it that question that way because we do these hard things, and people praise us and they think, "Oh, you all got it all together," not knowing all the things we have to go through to make something happen. And at times, it's hard for us to openly acknowledge that we did something well. So the question for you after those two is, why are you proud of yourself?
I don't. It's interesting because I don't spend too much time thinking about myself, or like I do try to encourage myself, and I believe my future is bright. But I'm proud of myself because I didn't give up. I didn't give up. And I didn't give in to the fear that sometimes comes along with entrepreneurship. So I think there's two fears in entrepreneurship. There's a fear of failure, which means like, I'm going to do this. It's not going to work. I'm going to be embarrassed.
Yep.
But the second fear, I think, is a fear of success.
Yeah.
Meaning, oh man, if we actually succeed,
then what?
Then what? The responsibility of like coming back and building the capacity to, hey man, we need to hire people, which means I'm leading a staff, or I'm kind of a public figure because the news has done so many stories on us, and so just I'm proud of me because I was not fearful about being successful. I would say, Anthony, thank you for embracing success and continuing every day to embrace success, which means building your capacity as a leader so that other people who you may not even meet will benefit from your saying yes to entrepreneurship.
That's beautiful. And I asked that to you because I struggle with that too. And there's nothing wrong with you looking back and saying, this is what I do well. Because it also gives you a marker on understanding how far you've had to overcome to get to this place of capacity, because you're building capacity to do something else. Because if you're not able to recognize this is what I do well, sometimes it's hard to receive somebody else's positive feedback because you don't even see yourself that way.
Yeah.
So if I see myself that way, it's easy for me to recognize when someone's telling me something I identify with, like the brand message.
Yeah.
You are projecting this message, but you're not able to receive it. But if I understand this is what I am, but even digging even deeper than that, if you even look at your journey, if you look at your journey through ministry, you look at your and serving youth, and then you went to the school environment, which led to this business. All of it is a divine pathway. So when you look at how it even unfolded, it's part of who you are for you to recognize, yes, I do this well.
Right.
So when somebody says something on the opposite, you know where it's coming from.
That's right.
Right. All right. But we're going to switch real quick.
All right.
So we got a few minutes left on the podcast, and I want to give you a chance to talk about your run for city council.
Wow.
Now listen, you going from Chicago to Tulsa to ORU, in ministry, pastoring, teaching, entrepreneur, and now politics.
Maybe, yeah.
Now you're entering the world of taking it a step further to be impactful, and decided I see some challenges, see some problems. I want to put my name in the hat to run for city council.
For sure.
So talk to us about that. When did that idea come?
Yeah.
And why do you want to run for city council?
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. But so Tulsa, Oklahoma, I think is one of the best places in the country. I know we're in Oklahoma City, but we're going to give props to Tulsa. One of the best places in the country to live, raise a family, start a business, educate your kids. And the last nearly 20 years that I've spent in the city, it's been a phenomenal journey. Yeah. Like I chose Tulsa to receive my university and graduate education. I chose to pastor in our city, to serve the families of our city as a public school teacher. Tulsa, allowed me to start a profitable and growing candy company that is touching people all over the country. Mm-hmm. And I think that what's interesting, my kids, this is what made me want to run. Every Saturday, my kids they'll wake up and they'll say, "Daddy, is it a school day? Is it a school day?" And I say, "No, it's not a school day. It's Saturday or it's Sunday." And then they'll say, "Can we walk around the block? Can we walk around our block?" Yeah. And then, like down the street, there's a park, West Highlands Park, that they will want to go to. And it dawned on me, our kids love our neighborhood. Mm-hmm. They love the park that's down the road. And part of that is the infrastructure. Yep. Part of that is the funding for the roads. Part of that is the fact that we have sidewalks. The fact that at a very local level, there are systems in place in my neighborhood that are making the quality of life for my kids better. Mm-hmm. There are people, however, in our same city that don't have that experience.
That's true.
Who don't have sidewalks on their on their streets, who may attend schools that are not educating to the level that they could be, who are not connected to the social services that are going to help them with the mental health challenges that they're experiencing, or who don't have access to affordable housing. So I have a mentor. His name is Brian. He's the president of the Lobeck Taylor Family Foundation, and just a really high capacity, great guy. So I was talking to him about, how much I love the city, how much I am, how much I'm challenged by some of the issues we have as a city. Let me give you one example. So I live on the south side of the southwest side of Tulsa. Okay. There's a street called Admiral that goes east to west. Yep. When you cross Admiral, your life expectancy drops by 12 years. They've done the data on life expectancy, and as a result of access to
because Admiral runs north-south, right?
No, it goes east-west. Admiral goes east-west. Okay. And so it separates North Tulsa from Midtown, and then as you go down to South Tulsa. Okay. And your health outcomes as a result of access to fresh food. There are disparities within our city. Okay. And so I'm talking to Brian about all this, and he says the way that you affect change, Anthony, is local. The way that you affect change is by there is a national solution, there's a state solution, but if there are children that cannot safely cross the street, which in the district that I live in, there are kids that can't safely cross the street because the intersection is messed up. Right. How do you fix that? That's the city council. That's a city council person's
We get so caught up into every 4 years and the presidential.
Oh, sure.
Things have to get there. They come from the local community, right. And there's so much talk about what happens on the state level and presidential. Right. And we forget what happens in the county and the local municipal level.
That's right.
Where those are direct impacts that you can make. So I'm really excited that your mentor Brian had you thinking, because if you want to change something, the way you change it is through policy.
That's right. It's through policy. And so he said what's interesting is the woman who had been our city councilor at the time. And I'll also say this. So Tulsa has 9 districts. Okay. So if there are 9 geographically divided sections of Tulsa, about 45,000 folks in each section.
Okay.
And every 2 years, they will vote on one representative to serve on the Tulsa City Council. Tulsa Council, they approve the budget, they approve the or reject the ordinances, like basically the laws that we function by, and they're basically the legislative branch of the city. And
Right.
so, like I'm talking about from should we fund the police down to should we put a speed bump on your corner because cars drive too fast. It's very practical.
Right.
And so Brian said the woman who is currently in the seat, she's not going to run again. So there's the opportunity for you to make your case as to why you have a forward-facing vision for your community, what your response is to public safety, to housing and homelessness, to issues of affordable housing and education here in the state, and take the nearly $1 billion that we bring in sales tax, because Tulsa is funded by sales tax revenue.
Yep.
How are we going to use that to make people's lives better, and particularly in your district? And so we thought about it, we prayed about it, and talked to a lot of folks. And every person that I talked with, I said, I'm thinking about running for city council. And I remember there's one guy, his name was Wes. He said, "Of course you are." He said, "Of course you are. That's you. That's you." And I'm just affirming, not just, it's not an ambition that I had, but it's something that people see on me, this leadership, this desire to bring a diverse group of people together and say, we all love this community. What are the solutions that we are going to come together and implement in this community? And when I get that feedback, I will advocate for those priorities at a city level and make sure we have the funding to get it done.
It's interesting. So, again, when you look at the encompassing experiences that you've had, again, another opportunity to look at some challenges and create solutions.
Wow.
That's what entrepreneurs do.
Wow.
And if you go even further in how life works the way it works, hey, can we go walking? So not realizing that, your grandmother had an impact on that. Your grandfather's decision to continue painting and not getting paid led to your grandmother making a decision, led to Chicago, led to you there. All these things that we sometimes think are not, or just by happenstance,
Right, not connected,
are also connected when you're doing things. Think about these challenges, and the gentleman said, this is why I'm bringing that up, because the gentleman said, of course you are. Because you are a business leader that took some challenges and created a solution to it. But on top of that, you said something very, very key. The life expectancy, but also in divested communities because they don't have a lot of income.
That's right.
Look at how many businesses are created. When you spend within your county, your district, or your wards here, when you spend in them, that revenue stays in them. So as public schools, libraries, post offices, grocery stores were being removed, it forces people to go spend in other places where there's more tax revenue in those places, the more things happen. So that creates this envy. Whereas now we need more messaging from our Chamber of Commerces, from our business leaders, from entrepreneurs to say, I'm going to run and step in. I want to step into this place to look at how do we influence the legislation or introduce or fight against or educate. And you found a way to do that through Toffee. Toffee, you found Toffee to bring people together.
That's exactly right.
A common interest. So now you have a base of people that you can now give another message. Because remember, you giving to that teacher is going to impact a student or a family that you haven't met.
Wow.
That may have a family member that lives in Tulsa.
That's right.
Or that may be willing to give to your campaign and support. Because what you decided to do was take a business that's impactful, and now there's this ripple effect that's going.
Yeah, I love it. If you're not subscribed to this podcast,
you should.
You need to get, because this man.
I didn't say it.
This man is preaching.
I just like having conversation with amazing people.
Oh, I love it. Well, I'm so glad to have been a part. The election is August 27th. And Archie 4D2.
Okay.
It's the number 4. Archie, ARCHIE, 4D2.com is our website. And love to reach out to me at any time, and love to hear what you have to say. And August 27th is when we vote, and we're excited to be a part of.
Okay, so one quick more question about that, because I see the connection between needing to raise money, doing messaging, being consistent, managing your time, project management, leading, all those things. But you experience those things starting a business.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
So
this guy's good.
You look at the transfer. That's right. You look at the transfer of experience to this.
Yeah.
Right. So if you decided that, hey, we have a toffee company, well, I want to start another company. You've learned the process.
That's right.
The process are the same. So now, if your children decide they want to be entrepreneurs, or if they want to create a project, you understand there's a process that works. Even if you don't may like how I do it, but if you look at the results, the process works. So do you see potentially how you can take those entrepreneurial efforts and education, life experiences to say, how can I apply these things for a successful campaign?
Oh, yeah.
The only difference between running for office is the title of its politics.
Sure.
But the process and the strategy is not different.
That's right. It's in fact, the reason why we started Oklahoma Toffee Company is because we were able to listen, hear, and see with our own eyes the needs that other people were experiencing. It's, if you're going to be a successful business owner, it's not about just what I want to do,
right?
But it's about, is what you're doing affecting others in a positive way? Are you listening to your customers? Are you getting feedback? But the same thing in serving at a local level. Any sort of policy change is going to be more durable when you co-create it with the people who are affected by it.
Right.
And so that's why community meeting. I mean, developers come to me and they say, "Oh, are you willing to do this zoning change or that zoning change?" And I'm like, maybe. How about you come to a community meeting with some residents and convince them?
Right.
And not that we want development. Of course, we need housing. We need 13,000 new units in 10 years in Tulsa because folks are coming in. But I'm not gonna shut out the voices of legacy residents who've been there for many years. And so we have to come together and figure out how we together will move forward.
And what was the quote you said again? You said, if you're not working with me, it's something that you're doing to me.
Let me look it up. Let me look it up here. Is that okay?
Yeah, you can't, because as you were talking, it became really like you're asking me to do something, but I want you to see that I'm open to an idea as long as it's something that's not going to have a negative impact on the people it's intended to help. So in order to do that, you have to build a connection to them.
Yeah.
And sometimes people will reject the new idea because they may not understand it in totality. So you got to spend more time in relationship to help them see that it is. And at the same time, you might realize that I didn't consider something and I can see how it's hurtful.
That's right.
I got to decide if I'm going to make this change or not. If I don't, it may not happen.
Yeah, I completely agree. This quote is, I didn't know it was from Mahatma Gandhi. So Gandhi came up with this quote. He says, "Whatever you do for me, without me, you do against me." Wow.
That's community.
Yeah, that's community. That's the role of any sort of government official. I don't represent myself or my own views. I'm supposed to get together with the folks that I represent and say, how are we going to together bring in your expertise, bring in your life experience, and let us as a community move forward? Because whatever solution you come up with, there's going to be buy-in to it. And so, that's why, I feel very strongly, about what we're doing in our campaign. I think we'll be very successful. And every day I'm with business owners or residents or stakeholders in the community, principals, who are passionate about the west side of Tulsa. And I'm passionate about it as well. And so together, we're going to make our side of Tulsa and Tulsa more broadly very strong.
I love it. So I have one final question as we close the podcast. we're sitting having a cup of coffee, and I'm new. I'm new to the city.
To Tulsa?
Tulsa.
Okay.
I'm new to Tulsa, wherever city a person is living, and they're new to a place. Establishing roots. What would you encourage them to do if they have this burning desire to create a business? What are 3 things that you would share in wisdom for them to get started?
Yeah, so if you came to Tulsa and wanted to start a business, wanted to be successful, there are a couple of places that I would.
Well, let me reframe that. I use it as an example, but let's just say just any city, not specifically Tulsa.
Oh, okay.
Right, because someone watching was like, well, I don't live in Tulsa.
Sure.
But so based on your wisdom and your experience, what are 3 things that you would advise a person to get started if they wanted to start an impactful business?
Sure. I would say that you need to find some community. So you want to go and have an impact on a city. You're not the first person to ever have that idea.
Sure.
There are people in your city who are passionate about your city, who want to make an impact. And typically they are organized in some way, whether it be like our business, we're part of the Tulsa Regional Chamber of Commerce, and just an amazing community of folks that who are small business owners. Some are big business owners who you can get connected with. I would say, so get connected with some sort of professional community that can. I'd also say, take care of your mental health. If you're in a brand new city, you're going through transition, and so knowing yourself well enough to say, hey, that means I need to exercise in the park, or I need to go to a coffee shop and read. I need to. So how can you structure your time in a way that even when you get discouraged, because you will get discouraged, or even when you're having a tough time meeting new people, that you still stay focused. And part of that is mental health. And then I would also say try to have some fun. There's plenty of fun things to do in Tulsa, but wherever you're at, try to laugh. Try to keep the joy. Like entrepreneurship is really.
It's a journey.
It's a journey, but if you're truly called to it, there will be. Now you're not always happy, but
true.
Even when you're stressed out about some accounting issue, it's like, man, I'm still called to do this. I'm still called to solve this problem, and even when you figure it out, it's like such a relief.
But it goes back to that like diagram that you were talking about earlier. It's something that you found a bigger purpose in why you're doing it. You're going to need some other type of driving force to do anything that's a new venture for you. If you're doing it for money, if you're doing it for any other fading reason, when that feeling or emotion goes away, you're not going to do it, which goes back to the consistency and the discipline. Because if I'm not being able to pull from, there's another reason why I'm doing it. If it wasn't connected to teachers, Oklahoma Toffee Company could, hey, well, we're done. It's out of season or whatever, we're done. But you get these lists from teachers who need these requests, or I need an autism blanket, or I need a book, a Spanish-speaking encyclopedia. There's another reason why you're doing it that keeps you going in that journey of entrepreneurship. And I think that's beautiful, man. I learned quite a bit about your journey and coming from Chicago to Tulsa and being at ORU. By things that I didn't realize from a greater place, which is why I asked the question to learn more about who you are as the person more than what you do, because we don't typically talk about what we are going through in the process, which makes sense for people when the gentleman said, of course you are.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have done something that's bigger than yourself. That
I've demonstrated that over the 20 years that I've been in Tulsa.
You and your wife have demonstrated that. It's coming down into your kids. Probably when you're on the way back to Tulsa, you were like, you know what? Like, my kids likely have a reason why I'm looking at changing my community the way, because they wanted to go walking.
That's right.
So then to connect that to other neighborhoods where they don't have good sidewalks, or their kids are not asking, let's go walking, let's go to the park. because they don't have it. I remember a quick story when when COVID was happening, everything was shut down. People were at home. Well, in my neighborhood, I could. And I actually got the chance to meet my neighbors because folks don't talk to each other.
Right.
But when I would go visit my family on the east side, like no one was outside. It wasn't a walkable area. It wasn't a place where you get to see that. But I started to think about, if there's no place to have an outlet, you're confined in a space that is already devoid of the resources that it needs, that it's supposed to have.
Right.
What does that play on how you view everything's magnified? So having those resources and having someone with that type of thought process like yourself who can advocate,
Right.
who can build community. Going back to the question I asked about if I'm new to a place. So you mentioned three things. One being get involved in community.
Right.
Create connection.
Right.
And then the third one you mentioned was
have some fun.
have fun with it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think just in those three areas of community, connection, and having fun, life becomes better.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you find more purpose, because I believe nothing happens when you break down even community. You can't have community without community. You can't have community without communication or common. Without those two things, you lack
right.
community. So, I have many other questions that I could ask, but
for sure.
But we're going to end this podcast with this. So, if someone wants to find out more about Oklahoma Toffee, how can they find you online and order from you?
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. OklahomaToffee.com is our website. You go there and order. We have toffee, a whole spread of different toffees, chocolate-covered pretzels, popcorn. If you're a teacher in Oklahoma and have a special request, there's a space where you can fill it out. If you want to do fundraisers or corporate orders, we do lots of corporate orders. We'd love to have you there. On social media, we're on Instagram and Facebook at Oklahoma Toffee. So would love to connect.
And you're
with
also
anybody.
in retail, right?
We are.
Inside into retail stores?
So here in Oklahoma City, we're just right down the road at Plenty Mercantile. And if you go to our website, there's a whole laundry list, a whole list of retailers that we're carried in, mostly in Tulsa and then in Oklahoma City as well. And then if you're ever flying out just from Will Rogers Airport, you should stop by Plenty Mercantile.
That's one I forgot to ask that question.
We're carried in the airport
for another time.
For sure.
So I think that's amazing. In what, 5 years? 5, almost 6 years. Going on 6 years, right?
3. It'll be 6 years. That's right.
So going on 6 years, online presence. You're
retail
and vendors. You're in the airport.
Right.
Establish these relationships, and I tell people this all the time. In Oklahoma, you can make things happen faster. It's easier to launch a business, maybe make some bump in the roads and recover. In 6 short years.
Oh yeah.
You've made this company happen where it's become a household name that's gotten people's attention. It's been very impactful. So kudos to you, brother.
Man, I appreciate you, and I appreciate the platform that you are giving to folks like me. And when you put that out into the world, blessings on blessings on blessings are going to come your way. So
I receive that
for sure. Thank you, brother.
No problem. All right, y'all. Make sure that you subscribe to us on YouTube for our YouTube channel. We need your subscriptions to join our community, to grow our channel. Make sure you follow Anthony and the Oklahoma Toffee Company on social media. Order from them, because when you spend money with local businesses, we have greater impact, and also you're helping teachers. We thank you for your support of this channel on the Bigger Than Food podcast. I am your host, Apollo Woods, and like we always say, our mission is bigger than food.